Good girl, lie down. All right. So, how's everybody doing? So, today I wanted to make a video talking about a couple subjects here, but first I'll start with an energy update. Those of us who are sensitive felt this portal open up back on 7/7, and things were really blissful energy for a few days. And it has since shifted into some very intense energy that can also be seen on the Schumann resonance and all the solar waves and solar energy spiking. And this can be picked up by scientific equipment. And like I've talked about this before, this as we get closer into this band of high energy, the whole solar system is moving into it. This energy is streaming forth from the central sun to all the different stars to our sun to us. And this is source energy, and it's coming to reawaken us to who we really are, you know. And this is the can be related to moving out of the Kali Yuga and back into, the bronze and silver and golden age. And so this is where we're headed. Okay, we're moving back into a high energy band for awakening and ascension and graduation, coming out of the dark ages. And so I've talked about this before. This the solar system moves up and down like in a wavelength pattern, right? But really, it's not a wavelength; it's spiraling. And if you look at the spiral from the side, it goes up and down, and it appears as a wavelength. Okay, and so this is kind of a law of the universe. There is, everything works in spirals. Everything works in waves. There's an expansion period and a contraction period, and this can be fractalized out to every to every concept that you can imagine. It all works in this type of pattern. Okay, and you can see it in nature. You can see it in waves. You can see it in patterns of growth, and it can, as far as learning and integrating new information, you have this growth period, and then you have to have an integration period. If you stay stuck in one pattern too long, you can burn yourself out. Like if you're eating the same diet too much, your body wants change. It wants, just like the seasons. We eat different foods for the different seasons, and so on and so on and so on, from microcosm to macrocosm. And so I'm bringing this up to talk about my experiences, and learning this for myself and learning balance, right? Because I tend to go to extremes in the past, as far as doing energy work and taking clients. I've done this pattern for a while now. I'll have clients every single day and do all this energy work and not have enough time for myself to, get in the gym and do yoga and to clear these pathways and these meridians and keep them clear and the energy flowing through the channels, right? And I've burnt myself out, and then I've had to take a couple months off and not see any clients and just take time for myself. And then I've done this multiple times, okay? And it finally got to a point this last time where it was compounded upon, and through this, I realize now why this happened, because we manifest every situation in our life, right? That being said, like, everything external is a reflection of our internal. There's nothing separate. We are fully responsible for everything that has happened in our life. Every situation, every blessing, every tragedy, every interaction with every person. It's literally all coming from within. And once we own that and realize that and stop taking stimuli from the external and basing our emotions upon that, that's when things really shift. Okay, because like I've said before, and the star people have told me this, it just hadn't integrated fully, is that we need to choose our emotions. We need to choose our thought process and not take it from the external. And this realigns us to our highest timeline. And if we stay on that, the universe has no choice but to pull that into existence, right? And so there's aspects of this that we don't quite understand until we start to dismantle the subconscious, because there's all these hidden thought forms and belief systems and programming that we can't access until you view things from a different perspective and get outside yourself and start really unraveling the mind to get to this state of no mind, where you can view yourself from a different perspective and be like, oh wow, I've had this belief system in the past because this has happened and this has happened and this has happened, so I'm expecting this thing to happen in the future. And it's like, really, I'm calling this thing into existence that is not serving me because of a bullshit belief system, right? And most of the time we're not even aware of this, and so it's a process to dismantle the subconscious. And there's an emotional component to this as well, as well as there's, it's all tied together. The emotional body, the mental body, the subconscious, it all kind of groups together, and it's challenging to dissect it. But it's happening through this process and through our experiences. And so I bring that up to say, I had burnt myself out in the past, and this was compounded upon coming out of a narcissistic relationship where people can probably relate to this, because good-hearted people tend to attract narcissistic partners. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe to learn boundaries. Whatever the case is, like, we learn from it. We put up boundaries. We see where we were allowing things in our life that didn't serve, and we heal ourselves in the process. And so, that being said, I started to have these autoimmune issues surface, which has happened in the past, and it is there's an emotional component to it as well, right? And so if there is unhealed emotions and trauma from the past, it compounded upon, well, I'll get to that in a second. So as we awaken, as the DNA awakens and activates, which is happening through this process of ascension, we flow more energy through our channels, through these meridians, and it's happening automatically. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to back up and get stagnant because we're not doing the work and clearing these meridians. And part of it is physical and doing yoga and taking care of your body and doing cardio and so on and so on. This clears the channels, but then part of it, there's an emotional component to it and the thought form component. And like I'm saying, it's got many different layers to it. And so if we do the work, the channels open up and it flows through. And that the more our DNA activates and comes online, the more energy we're running through us. And the more energy work you do, like for example, in my case, I'm doing energy work on clients every single day. I'm running a lot of energy and not taking time for myself. Of course, it's going to back up. And then combined with a narcissistic relationship and unhealed trauma and emotional components, it starts to manifest in the body, because the mind is like, hey, take care of this. And it's like, well, I'm busy, or whatever excuse. It starts to manifest physically. Okay. And so I was taking time off for myself in this healing process. And trying to change my diet, make all these corrections, and still having these really strange issues. And it started to get to a point where um, I was having this inflammation that would move around my body and go to different areas, like systemically, and not make any sense. Like one day it'd be, um, my lower back. The next day it'd be like upper back, and then my elbow swelled up like I hit it on something, but I didn't. And I was like, I'm just waking up with injuries. What the hell is going on? And it got really, really confusing. And so anyway, um, I was asking for assistance from the star people, right? And so one day I get in the shower and I look down on my thigh, my left thigh, which is the only part of my body that isn't tattooed, and I see these two perfect circular red marks next to each other, like maybe 3/8 to a half inch apart from each other, like pretty big red marks, and they're already healed and like perfectly cauterized over. And I feel it, and there's absolutely no pain, no swelling or anything, but like pressing on it, I could tell that they it was like from a puncture mark that went all the way down to the bone. I could feel, I don't want to say inflammation, but I could feel like tissue disruption, I guess, but there was absolutely no pain, and it healed differently than anything that I've ever experienced in my life. Like zero infection, just healed perfectly, but it left these red marks there, and I was like, okay, that's really strange. And I had zero memory of it. And so anyway, I make a post about it, and I'm like, I think I got taken aboard because my intuition was telling me that it was good. That's like, but I had no memory of it. So I made a post about it, and people were trying to discredit me and be like, "Oh, that's a spider bite," and so on and so on. And if it was a spider bite, the size of the spider, it would have to be like the size of a dinner plate for it. It's not a spider bite. It doesn't have puncture marks that go down to the bone. Anyway, so I was kind of concerned because I've been on board before. I've been taken on board, and they generally pull me out of body. It's not a physical thing. They pull your light body out, and this was a physical thing. So I was like, what group has done this? Is it good? Is it bad? What the hell's going on? Why am I dealing with this autoimmune issues? Um. Anyway, so some time goes by and I get better, and then recently the information came to me. I asked them. I was like, "So what was this all about?" And they were like, "Well, we took you on board and did this procedure on you and healed your autoimmune issues." And it was the mantis beings, and they took me on board physically because it was an actual physical issue in my body. And so through this process, I'm learning that it doesn't have to get to this point if we do the work, if we do yoga, if we heal the emotional wounds, if we heal the trauma, if we're constantly making an effort to progress and taking the time for integration as well and finding that balance. Okay. And so um, I find it, and they had a sense of humor when I was talking to them because they chose a spot which is the only untattooed spot on my body, and it's also where I apply combo. And if you're familiar with the medicine of combo from the frog, you burn the skin and in these points, in like a row of points, and this, like, for instance, 7 or 8 points would be a combo session for a man like me. Like, well, women, you might want to do 5 points. You kind of base it on body weight. But anyway, I had made these rows of points over the years of like 20 different combo sessions, and then they'll fade away over the years, and then I'll go back over the same spot because I don't want to ruin my tattoo. So I always go on my left thigh. And they told me that they they had the thoughtfulness and the sense of humor to use that exact spot where I do combo as well. And I thought that was really interesting and funny. And so yeah. And now I have bits and pieces of memory, but I still do not have the full memory, and it makes me want to get a regression and see because I know there's so much stuff that can be unlocked. Um, so anyway, yes, I was taken on board physically by the mantis beings, and I've had interactions with them in the past, and they're benevolent. Um, like I've said before, many races play both sides. You know, just like humans, you can find light humans and dark humans. But the mantis beings that I interact with are amazing. They're very benevolent and very advanced. So that's what I wanted to touch on as well. I started saying earlier, back on 7-7, the portal opened up and all these blissful energies were coming through, right? Well, since it has shifted into very intense energies coming through, and this is bringing up stuff. Like I'm looking on social media and I'm seeing people going through it, and they're going through very intense stuff and emotional stuff, and all this unhealed stuff that's been swept under the rug is coming up to be illuminated, and we have to do the work and process through it and clear it. Okay. And so this is, you know, the ebb and flow. This is the waveforms of ascension. You know, this light comes in and we get blissed out and lit up, and it brings up stuff to heal. And so we have a choice. We can stay in our old patterns and have things compound upon each other and be extremely difficult in the long run, you know, because we want to run away from it, we want to numb or whatever. Or we can just face shit head on and process through it, and then it's gone, and then you move forward. Okay. And so we all have to make this choice. And so that being said, I'll briefly touch on another experience that I had recently. I sat with the medicine, and at a certain point the darkness showed up and presented itself, and I was like, well, why are you here? And I saw the pathway of it was showing up why it was here, and so I cleared it. I was like, thank you. And then things went on, and it was a very beautiful healing experience. And then the darkness showed up again, but like full on strong, and I was like, it required me to for my full consciousness to show up and face it and be like, why are you here, and learn from it. Why is it showing up? And it showed me my stubbornness in the past. And you know, I'm being vulnerable and talking about my experiences publicly because we're all students. You know, if anyone calls himself a master, be very cautious of that because they're full of shit. This process never ends of growing, you know. And so anyway, I've had this stubbornness pattern in the past, and I saw that that's why it showed up, to get me to fully step into my power and take my power back. And I did, and it cleared it and went away. And like I've said before, it's everything is one. Everything is I. Even the darkness, it shows up for a reason to teach you. And if you don't rise to the occasion, yeah, it can fuck you up and there's consequences. But if you pass the tests and the initiations, you grow. Okay, and then we move beyond polarity into, you know, unity consciousness, and beyond karma into dharma. And so this was a big initiation for me to step into my full power and to break these patterns of stubbornness. And then I was shown all these visions of past lives. I've been Native American medicine men for many different lives, as well as yogis in India and Tibet. You know, and this is where I've ascended in the past. And so, you know, I've also had other past lives that are on the opposite spectrum. And so that being said, it's like we've been everything. You can't judge anybody. It's literally all I. Everything is I. There's no separation. And when you judge somebody, the universe is going to make you have that experience in one way or another, effect where you can realize, oh wow, I did the same thing as them in their shoes. You know, until we finally lose all judgment and realize this is just all I learning from different perspectives. It's just all one mind. You know, and if we can get to that neutral point, it's beautiful. We see beyond the polarity, and we see the fruits of it all, which is growth and learning, you know, and ascension. This is just a temporary school here on the earth, you know, and it depends on what perspective you look at it from. Yes, there's different factions that are warring, you know, but this is all part of the game that's being played out. Okay. And so, you know, I could go off on a tangent on this for quite a bit, and I'll make another video about this in detail, but basically this Earth School was set up as a school, as an experiment. We have the genetics in us of over 22 different star races. You know, we're everything. We're a combination of a hybrid species of all these different star genetics combined in to make the current version of humans. You know, we even have reptilian genetics in us that goes all the way back to the Royal Draco lines, and then beyond that to the sacred dragon lines. Okay, we all have a reptilian complex in our brain. You know, there's direct evidence of that. And on that note, a couple weeks ago, you know, the canyon that I make videos at and go hike at and take my dog out to, there's this vortex point that I've gone for years there. And I went out there a couple weeks ago in the morning, ran my dog out there, and I'm just meditating on this rock, you know, catching my breath, got the prana moving, and it's like early morning, I'm completely sober, you know, just completely natural, and you know, I don't use any substances anymore. I'm just saying that because people want to try to discredit me. There's no medicine, nothing, just completely sober, and I'm sitting there on this rock, you know, catching my breath, and I feel the presence of something, and I'm like, what is that? And it feels benevolent, but it also feels reptilian, which was kind of disturbing. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Make yourself known. And then I see off to the left, in front of the Red Canyon wall, I see this black shape phase in, like the size of a bus, and fly by and then phase back out. And at first I came up like, okay, is there some sort of explanation for this? Is this a shadow? Is there a plane above me? But the sun was behind the canyon wall, just rising, and so the different angles. There's no explanation for it. Like I saw it below, between me and the rock canyon wall is where it phased in, just like a few hundred feet in the air, and I was like, wow, that just literally showed up. And so I tuned in. I was like, who are you? And it was a dragon. And it showed me that it was responsible for this experience. You know, like it's been there for a while. And I've had experience with dragons, seeing them in the ethers and whatnot. But this time it literally manifested into 3D reality. Okay, when the veil is thin, these things can pop through, like Bigfoot and Sasquatch experiences. They're interdimensional beings. They can phase in and out, like the Thunderbird. You know, this can phase in and out of this reality, and apparently fucking dragons too. You know, and I've also had experiences with fairies, like literal fucking fairies, like flying by, luminous with sparkly shit coming off them in the middle of the night. That like creating its own light source. It's real, okay? The veil is thin. Anyway, it showed me that it was responsible for this experience that had happened years ago, where this is back when I had my old dog, and he was very old and going blind. And this was like late May. It was starting to get hot. I should have been more careful, but I got up to the spot, and they ran under this giant boulder, except two dogs, had two dogs. They ran under this giant boulder under the shade to cool down. And so I'm sitting on that rock and I hear zzz, and I'm thinking, what is this, bees? And then I realized, oh shit, this is a rattlesnake. And I fucking ran over there, and there's like rocks on either side, and there's just this little path back to where he was laying down. And there's no room to get by on either side. You know, there's no branches because it's the desert, and there's no like sticks I could use to, because in the middle of the path there's a fucking rattlesnake all coiled up and rattling and angry. And I was just like, oh shit, how did he get by there? Did he already get bit? How can I move this snake? There's no stick, there's no branches I can get to move him. And I'm just like, what do I do? What do I do? And then he gets up and starts walking over to me, and I'm like, no, no, no. And he literally walks over this thing, and his paws like almost like bump it in the head. And I'm just like seeing this all play out. Like, there's nothing I can do. He's walking over a coiled up, rattling rattlesnake, like directly over him. And then this it's like my higher self kind of took over and stepped in, and instead of putting panic out, like this calmness went through me, and went into the snake. Like, it's okay, you're safe, like everything's fine. And it literally didn't bite him, and I was just like, oh my god. And he walked over it, and I got him out of there, and I was just like, oh my god. And afterwards I looked at this snake in the eyes, and I was just like, thank you for not taking my boy, thank you. And I could tell that it was some supernatural shit that just happened. Like, telepathically, there was something going on. Anyway, this dragon told me that it was responsible for it not biting, and I was just like, wow, thank you. And so this expands, you know, like there is a reptilian aspect to this world as well, and to our genetics. And part of it's benevolent, and then there's a whole nother part of it, like, you know, all the fallen stuff that's pure evil, right? But we can't judge a book by its cover. Everything's polarized in this universe. Anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'm gonna edit in some pictures of these marks on my leg, and I have some more videos coming out soon about the Elohim and about the whole Earth School and all that stuff. I'll get into that soon. Anyway, take care. We'll speak soon.